Good morning. We come into this circle where each of us is essential. We come to create spiritual community together. And our significance doesn't depend on whether we're young or old, whether we are singled or partnered or in between, whether we're male or female or beyond the confines of those boundaries and binaries, whether we're spiritual or religious, both or neither, whatever our orientation, our gender identity, our race, our heritage, whatever questions it is that we are holding, we're necessary to this circle. And significant for this circle that each of us are here, just being who we are. And as we come with each other this day, we come in gratitude for the long witness of this land on which we gather. We acknowledge with gratitude that we are gathered on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional meeting grounds, gathering places, and traveling routes for Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux peoples. We come with our intention to be respectful and responsible treaty partners as we move forward truthfully with one another and we seek reconciling ways. Sometimes we feel like we have enough light to see forever, like being on an open road on a sunny day. And sometimes we feel like we're navigating through the dark with only the short light of our headlights to see just in front of us. And sometimes we feel like we're feeling our way along a wall in complete darkness looking for the light switch. Whatever our relationship is today with the light we seek, we come in the midst of the light of our questions and our quest. We come to share the light of song and story, the light of our hopes and prayers, the light of our lived experience, the light of the wisdom of enduring teachings, the light of a new day into which light has not failed to come. As we center ourselves in this time with one another, would you complete the thought I offer with the words you find on the screen? In the midst of our deep joys and profound losses, may we open to love and light. In the midst of feeling overwhelmed, may we open to love and light. In the midst of our many questions, may we open to love and light. In the midst of all we know and all we do not know, and in this time together, may we open to love and light. we come to strengthen our intentions with one another, to remind ourselves again of who we are, how it is that we would live in the midst of all the trouble and beauty we know to be life. And so we come and pause with one another, seeking through the words we offer to focus again our intentions on our living. And together we pray. Into this circle we come, opening to wisdom hidden in words and gestures, songs and silences, readings and reflections, prayers and symbols. We come to seek inspiration and strength, courage to live lives of depth. We gather to ponder what matters. In wisdom we share, in our own experience, in the accumulated insight of our humanity, and in the revelation of the natural world. Into this time and place we come as those seeking to be open to the connection of all things. I would like to invite those who want to come a little closer for a time, for all ages, a time to share a story with one another, time to share some pictures in our book and on the screen. You don't have to be short, you can be taller. You don't even have to be able to get back up off the floor, we'll help you. We're talking about questions today, and we've got lots of them. All kinds of questions that we keep asking, and sometimes we don't get very good answers, and we try somebody else and we ask it again. I want to share a story with you about a little boy who asked a lot of questions, a lot of really good questions, and he asked them at just the right time, at bedtime. Our story's called When the Wind Stops. The bright yellow sun had shone all day, and now the day was coming to an end. And the light in the sky changed from blue to pink to a strange dusky purple. And the sun sank lower into the long glowing clouds. And the little boy was very sorry to see the day end. He and his friends had played in the garden, and when they were tired of playing, they lay down in the grass and they felt the sun on them warm and soft, and they felt like a sleepy cat resting. And then there'd been icy lemonade in the afternoon, and they drank it under a pear tree. And the little boy's father read him a story on the porch before he went to bed. Now his mother came to say goodnight, and he said, "Why does the day have to end?" And she said, "So night can begin." Look, she pointed out the window where, high in the darkening sky behind the branches of that pear tree, the little boy could see a pale sliver of moon. "That's night beginning," she said. "The night with the moon and the stars and the darkness for you to dream in." "But where does the sun go when the day ends?" he asked. "The day doesn't really end," she said. "It just begins somewhere else. The sun will be shining there when night begins here. Nothing ends." "Nothing?" the little boy asked. "Nothing," his mother said. "It begins in another place, in a different way." The little boy lay in bed, and his mother sat beside him, and then he said, "Where does the wind go when it stops?" She thought for a moment. "It blows away to make the trees dance somewhere else." "But where does the dandelion fluff go when it blows away?" It carries the seeds of new dandelions to someone's lawn. And where does the mountain go after the top? Well, she said it goes down to where it becomes the valley. And where do the waves go when they break on the sand? Well, they get sucked back into the sea to make new ones. Where does the rain go when the storm's over? Well, it goes into clouds to make other storms. And where do the clouds go when they move across the sky? They go somewhere to make shade somewhere else. And the leaves in the forest, when they turn color in fall, well, they go into the ground to become part of the new trees with new leaves. But when the leaves fall, isn't that the end of something, the little boy said? It's the end of autumn. Yes, his mom said, but the end of autumn is when winter begins. And at the end of winter, the little boy asked? The end of winter, when the snow melts and the birds come back, well, that's the beginning of spring. And the little boy smiled. It really does go on, he said. Nothing ends. And he looked out at the sky, and the sun was completely gone, and those lovely pink clouds had disappeared, and the sky was dark and purple-black. High above the branches of the pear tree shone clearly now a thin new moon. Today's over, his mother said. It's time for sleep, and tomorrow, when you wake, the moon will be beginning a night somewhere else far away, and the sun will be here to start a brand new day. There's a lot of questions in this story. A lot of questions. And there's something else that never ends, Questions. They never end. Even those people sitting behind you, they have them too. No matter how tall we are, or how old we are, or how big we are, or how grown up we get, we always have questions, because there's no end to them. And there's lots of great places to ask our questions. We've got people we live with who love us, people in this circle, teachers in Kids Spirit, teachers at school, and today is a day to explore some questions in Kids Spirit. So we're going to make our way to the small hall, and you're going to explore a story and some good questions. And just like the boy in the story, let's always keep asking our questions. Have a great time in Kids Spirit. The prophetic tradition of ancient Israel was great at asking questions. In the writings handed down to us in the prophet Micah come these good questions. What shall I bring to the temple to show my respect? Shall I bring an armful of offerings? Will it be pleasing to bring thousands of dollars or loads of my most valuable items? Or shall I offer the life's work of my firstborn? No, it's already plain how to live and what to do. Do what is fair and just to your neighbor. Be compassionate and kind in your love. Walk humbly with all. This is an insight passed down to us from the writings of ancient Israel. May we find wisdom for our day.
From the Dhammapada, one of the key writings in the Buddhist tradition, do not underestimate good, thinking it will not affect you. Dripping water can fill a pitcher, drop by drop. One who is wise is filled with good, even if one accumulates it little by little. These are words attributed to the Buddha from the 3rd century BCE. May we find wisdom for our living. Being a citizen in the 21st century can be a lot of things, but one of them is mentally exhausting. We've done a good job of achieving a collectively short attention span, which has evolved gradually, probably, but more quickly since the evolution of the internet. Which means that it's all too easy to answer a pressing question at a glance. We just call up Wikipedia, or we say, "Okay, Google," and call it a day. And occasionally that's all you need, because it doesn't take too many sources to corroborate the orbital period of Venus, for instance, or the win-loss record of the 93 Blue Jays. Easy to come by those kinds of facts. And I'm not complaining. It beats waiting till Monday morning to go to the library. Do you remember that? I do. But there are some downsides. For one, it's really decreased the amount of wagers among friends. There was once a time when you'd be with a group of people, and someone would rattle off an interesting fact, and without fail, someone would disagree. And before you know it, there was a friendly wager going on, and amplified by the fact that you had the whole rest of the evening to make your case and try to convince the others of your way of thinking. And in the meantime, sometimes the wager got increased a little as the night went on. Well, now, before anyone can finish saying, "Care to make it interesting?" Siri is announcing the answer to the whole entire room. I say that in jest, in light, but it's actually quite disheartening that with more access to information than ever before, so many discussions that can happen, so many discussions do not happen. Online and in social media, it often boils down to people with opposing viewpoints attacking one another based on sometimes incorrect, incomplete data, expressing an opinion, and even though all that information is at their fingertips, willing to put almost everything on the line, their integrity, their nastiness, their goodness on the line to express their view. It seems interesting that our responsibility as people who live in a democracy and who want to keep that democracy alive, as people who seek to live with some depth and wisdom and understanding about our lives and the world we live in, that it's our responsibility to make sure that we never stop learning. That we look at every statement not as a conclusion, but as an invitation to more questioning. One of the bravest things I think a person can say is, "I don't know." And I wish we said it more. Because "I don't know" leads to a lot more questions. Can you wait while I find out? Can we look into this together? Can we talk about all the many answers to this question? Nancy and I are asked fairly regularly to describe to people why people find SSUC, this community, to be different. Why are people here? Why are people coming? Why are new people finding their way here? And I'm sure many of you have been asked that question too. For younger generations, I think it's even more incredulous than that, the questions they get sometimes. I've heard that many people who, when they discover they're coming, hear their friends or sometimes their family say, "You're going to church? What?" And the considerations we have to give when asked that question are ones like, why is spiritual community important? Why are we passionate about this place? Why are we feeling so strongly about building and growing and doing what we can to let people know about this community and communities like it? More and more we're recognizing that good community is marked by the good questions that we're able to ask. It's marked by an openness to be able to ask good questions that lead us deeper than Wikipedia or Siri could answer. So, in the nature of a good inquiry, I brought 2 case studies. Case study number 1, an old piece of wisdom from the prophet Micah, which, as Nancy introduced, asks some very good questions. How do we show our respect in this life? How do we live in a way that honors the deep connectedness of life and honors the beauty and the gift of living? What should our response to life be, in other words? And good community doesn't need to concern itself necessarily with religious views we hold, if we hold any. Remarkably, Micah called a prophet a very religious-y word, had this very remarkable non-religious, non-dogmatic sense of how to live this spiritual life, how to respond to the sheer gift of life. This centuries-old prophet doesn't lay out a belief system. Instead, the suggestion is that there just are certain actions and attitudes that exemplify a response to life that might be healthy, that might lead us deeper. Micah says, do what's fair and just. Be compassionate and loving. And be humble, because you're connected to all. That's a pretty good rationale for living well. You don't have to believe in any God to do these things. You don't have to be on any part of the political spectrum to do these things. You don't have to look a certain way to do these things, or be from a certain place to do these things. We can do them whether we're in front of you face-to-face, front of each other face-to-face, or we can do them whether a screen and a bunch of digital cable or Wi-Fi signals are in between us. We can do these things. And whenever wisdom connects us, binds us, and kind of universalizes us as a human species and says, no matter who you are or where you are, what if we could be this way? For me, it's valuable wisdom. Case study number 2. Words from the Buddhist tradition, which seem to call us to hear them and ponder what even the smallest acts and thoughts of goodness can achieve. The wisdom shares that like dripping water can fill a pitcher drop by drop, a wise person is filled with good even if they accumulate it little by little. And it inspires a question in us. Of course it does, right? How am I accumulating good? Where's my pitcher? What's it look like? Have I made some missteps wherein I dumped it out by mistake and I need to start filling it again? It inspires all these questions. What is the goodness I want it to be filled with? What does a drop of good look like wherever I'm at right now? What does a drop of good look like in the situation I'm dealing with? In the relationships I'm struggling with? In the workday I have on Thursday morning? Good community is able to ask good questions. Nancy may not recognize this in the way I'm framing it, but she and I have been talking about this in the last couple of weeks, and we decided that because we were inspired by a couple of things that we'd seen in other places, and because we were inspired to talk about this idea of what is spiritual community, what is good spiritual community, and what kind of questions does it inspire, we decided to make a bulletin board. Not many people respond with, we should make a bulletin board, but anyway, well, that was my cockamamie idea anyway. I won't put that on Nancy. Partially, because we wondered about that, it comes to the question about when a new person comes and is a part of us, or a new person comes and is introduced to maybe something in our foyer or a program we offer or something, and they have the question, what is this place? Who are these people? And we don't have answers for that, but we sure have a lot of questions. And so we made a board with a few questions on it. Actually, we had about, a lot more than that, probably 3 times that many, but we decided for now that's probably enough. But we started asking some questions like, good questions that community should be asking themselves and each other. Like, what do I know to be deeply true in this life? Questions like, what do I hold that's so valuable to my living out of my days that I couldn't bear to let it go? How am I living so as to leave a legacy that lives beyond my time? How am I engaging others so that I can build bridges and bring understanding when I speak to others? How do we act together to bring about change and action that can have real impact? Good questions don't have one answer. Good questions start us talking and thinking and diving deeper. They're the ones that help us look within ourselves and discover unrevealed things about us. And these questions have many answers, and maybe that's what we're seeking to do, to keep asking questions that open us to possibility, and to keep us with this mind and this heart and this energy to continue to learn. We don't want to be in the position that the comedian Stephen Wright describes when he says in the quote, "A conclusion is the place you got tired of thinking." And isn't that true? Yesterday's conclusion is today's up for grabs. I thought I'd offer one last thought from the world of mathematics. You know what that is? That's binary. That's how you count. In the world of mathematics, that's how you might count from 0 to 10 if you didn't have any numbers beyond 0 and 1. That's the language of binary. And like any computer, you can do it with just 2 digits. Now, granted, after a while, it takes a lot of paper and a lot of space, but you just have to write the numbers differently to count in binary. From 0 to 10, you would count them like that. The reason I'm putting that up there is because I saw this T-shirt the other day, and if you're counting in math in binary, it's this. Any language in binary, a computer doesn't have any emotion about it. It's either on or off. It's 1 or 0. It's this harsh kind of notation. And perhaps that's why nerds of all kinds find this T-shirt so hilarious. I include myself in that category. Ironically, I first saw this T-shirt where? On my Facebook feed. Okay, this is it. There are 10, you can read it. There are 10 kinds of people, those who understand binary and those who don't, which is hilarious because 1, 0 is 2 in binary. As I said, nerds find this shirt hilarious because the 1, 0 actually means 2. And in this simple phrase, you've entered into a dialogue. On the one hand, it's incredibly self-reinforcing. There are only 2 kinds of people in this world, those who perceive the world correctly in strict black and white binary opposition, and those who don't. You can practically hear the dogma of a computer programmer giving itself a high five. It's like, yes. But the spirit lurking a bit deeper beneath this sentiment sings a different tune. There are alternate ways to see the world that reveal hidden possibilities. Maybe even 10 of them. Maybe more. And surely, if there can be an alternative to understanding as fundamental to life as with numbers, if there can be alternatives to seeing answers, it's not much of a leap to realize that there's probably another and another and another and another possibility in all the questions we ask. Good questions, like good T-shirts, open ourselves to thinking a bit more broadly, to creating a wonder in which a new way of seeing something is a revelation, not a threat. And perhaps most importantly, asking the good questions establishes a ground on which we continue to learn from each other. Without those questions, without a curiosity that meets a new person and legitimately wonders about them, we don't have the ground to learn anything. I always found it such a cliche when a teacher would, start a class and say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. But it really is true if what you're trying to do is create a space, create ground on which we are trying to do what? Learn. Ask new questions, come up with other possibilities. Build bridges between people and ideas. I think I might start asking more stupid questions in my life. Usually I'm too scared to look like an idiot. I don't know why, because I act like one all the time. But I really should ask more stupid questions. Just more questions. Volume. I would probably learn a lot more. And that's the ground on which we build something together. Good and healthy community, good and healthy relationships, good and healthy lives lived with depth. And when all our questions call for an answer, because sometimes they do, we can't continue to ask ad nauseum. Sometimes we're called to stand and answer for ourselves. And when that opportunity comes, May we be more like Micah or the Buddha, and less like the Twitter sphere. May our answer be more about justice, about compassion. May our answer be about love. May our answer be about goodness, drop by drop, little by little. I want to invite us into a time where we can express a commitment to those questions in a song recently introduced by Scott Kearns. It's new for us. It's called One Question. And like us, this song asks many questions. And it wonders whether there really is only one question that matters. We'll sing this song together. There's no way to begin a conversation, to begin caring for each other, to begin the road and walk of compassion if we don't ask the question, how are we? Where are we? What weighs heavy on us? And what lifts us? So in this spirit of sharing and this spirit of sharing our hearts and prayers with one another, we ask each other those questions to share as a community. What weighs heavily on us today? What buoys our lives and what brings joy to us? What worries us and what thrills us? Let's spend a few moments to share with each other that question. And as each individual shares, will respond in saying, in all our joys and sorrows, may love abound.
With the grieving of the Schlesinger and the McCracken families interfaced with the thrill and joy of the arrival of Eliza May Way in Calgary.
In all our joys and sorrows, may love abound.
When speaking of questions, this is a story that Arv usually tells. I think it's about 15 or so years ago. We were in a restaurant with our oldest grandson, who was about 10 at the time. And Arv was wanting to, we didn't see him that often, what's the best advice that a grandfather could give to his grandson? And he thought about be good, do well in school, and it didn't seem right. So finally he said to Tom, what's the best thing a grandfather could say to his grandson? And Tom thought for a couple of seconds and said, I love you.
In all our joys and sorrows, may love abound.
In Webb Canoe's memoir of his father, the book ends with these words spoken by Webb's father: to be hurt and to forgive, to do wrong and to forgive yourself, to die leaving only love, that is why you walk.
In all our joys and sorrows, may love abound.
In the joy of celebrating and having community with our church last evening, with all the beautiful people, the beautiful food, and the beautiful entertainment, in all our joys and sorrows.
May love abound.
My heart breaks every day for what is happening to Mother Earth, for what we're doing to destroy our only home. But I like the concept of the jug and the little drops, that I can just do some small thing every day to help Mother Earth to heal.
In all our joys and sorrows.
As you know, this is a community where we have many opportunities and many ways to engage with one another and with our community and with the needs of our world. I have a few invitations that I'd like to extend to you today, and if anyone has anything else that we need to know about while we're gathered, please make your way to the microphone while I extend a few invitations about some things that are coming our way. Next Sunday, immediately following our gathering, is an opportunity for us to host newcomers to our circle. Those of you who are newly arriving with us, or those of you who can identify those around you that are new. Next Sunday, following our gathering here, we want to share a newcomers lunch together, an opportunity to get to know one another, to share food and conversation with each other. And so if you're new to this circle or finding your way or want to know a little bit more about us, please plan to join us next Sunday after the gathering at 11:30 as we share lunch with one another.
Friends, may we go from this community to our many communities, knowing that we can question, we can ask, we can be curious, we can know that with our lives we can answer with love, with kindness, with compassion and humility. May we go in that spirit.